my name is Danny Leray and I went to the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games 20 years ago now.
So Danny, tell us about your career in rhythmic gymnastics, how you got started in the sport, and I guess what the journey was like to go to the Olympic Games.
I started when I was probably about 4.5, 5. My parents saw that I had talent for rhythmic gymnastics. I was always doing cartwheels and handstands around the house, rearranging the furniture, lining up all my dolls to watch me. So I think it started at a pretty early age and they got sick of me doing that. So they sent me off to the local gymnastics club. They had no idea that it was a rhythmic gymnastics. They just put me in there and that's what it ended up being. And I vividly remember holding onto my mum's leg and I wouldn't go in the door and I was screaming and crying and she pushed me in. And I just found this world of, gymnastics that was everything I was practicing at home. I don't even know why I was doing it or where I saw it, but I was just in heaven. And then when the lesson finished, I was like, this is it. I don't want to go home. I just did it for fun. Like I did recreational for a couple of years. Then I did level 1, I did level 2, I did level 3, and I never did very well. And then I think I was 9 and I got approached at a competition to try out the New South Wales Institute of Sport program back there. And then I got accepted and that's kind of where the journey started, I think, for me. And then I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And the Olympics started to be something that I thought of, I think. It just started to be something that I was like, that's what I want to do. And I think it coincided with the announcement that like Sydney was going to host the games. Like I remember waiting up until the early hours of the morning, like I think it was something like 4 a.m. in Sydney, to see if we won the bid. I don't know where this came from, but I was just really interested in Sydney going to be the host for the Olympics. And then as soon as that was announced, I would like turn to my dad who stayed up with me and I was like, that's the Olympics I'm going to go to. And that was at 9. I don't know why, but I was pretty clear that that's what I was going to achieve. Like I had no idea how I was going to achieve that or what that even entailed to get to the Olympics. But for some reason, it was a really clear goal. And I worked out I would be 17 at the time. I would be the right age. So then I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to get there. I think for me, like, I'll never forget what it was like to compete at the Olympics. Like there's something very special about the Olympics that I can't even explain it to you. It's like you become part of, I don't know, like a little family of people who are all like-minded, super, super determined people with a goal. And like, I think everyone knows how hard it was to get there. So when you get there, you kind of feel like, wow, like you've done it. And everybody that's there with you feels that way. It's pretty special. And I think, yeah, it's just a culmination of hard work and achievement. And, that feeling of when you tick that off, it's pretty amazing.
What motivated you from the moment that you decided you were going to go to the Olympic Games until you found yourself at the Sydney 2000 Olympics?
I'm a pretty driven person. If you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it 150% or I'm just not going to do it. So I think I was just really driven to achieve that. And, every step of the way I had little goals and little like checkpoints that I had to tick off to get there. And then I think as I got closer to understanding what it took to qualify for the Olympics, that's when I really like honed in on what I need to do to get there. I was never the favorite. I was never the number 1 gymnast. Like probably people thought, oh, why does she think she's going to go to the Olympics? Because that wasn't like, it kind of wasn't really probably possible for me, I suppose. Like I wasn't somebody that people thought that's a goal for me. I was there in the background and I was just working away and I was, just slowly behind the scenes, I suppose, climbing up the ranks. I remember, I think I was in my first year junior, that's right. And I went to the Nationals in Perth and I had no expectations and came second out of nowhere. And people turned around and said, oh, how did you come second? And I was like, I don't know. And then that's when I was like, oh, maybe I could be good at this sport. And that's when I think, so around junior is when I started to think that, the Olympics is something maybe I could achieve.
You're the 5th Olympian now that I've interviewed, and none of them ever saw success until later on in their career. I think it was Penny that said she never won a gold medal until she was 17. So I guess, what do you think it is consistent amongst you guys that made you guys Olympians?
I think that talent only gets you so far. It's really like the drive, the dedication, and they throw this word around a little bit like grit. Like you've really got to, it's tough, you know, there's lots of obstacles, there's lots of hurdles, but it's very mental as well as physical. So, you know, you can have all the physical attributes, but you need to have the mental attributes to marry it all together to get there. And I think in all the different Olympians that you've interviewed, that's been like a key factor, that they've all had this real grit and determination and drive to make it to that really highest pinnacle. You know, when I think back, I'm like, well, I started and there was probably 30 girls with me, you know, at the beginning, and we're all good. We're all competing against each other. And just as time went on, more and more people dropped off, you know, people that were probably better than me. But it's almost like you need to be the last one standing at the end of it all. Not necessarily the best, but the last one standing to get there. And I think, you know, all of us have kind of gone through that struggle in our own careers to reach that point.
Seeing the range of athletes that come through your door, what do you think makes a champion?
I think, you know, in every athlete that I've coached, and it doesn't even have to be in high performance, it might just be in levels. They were like, can you watch this? Can I do this? Can you see this? And that was that persistence, that like, I want to nail it. I want to be good. And it was that drive. And again, that work ethic that I was like, that stands for me. I know that you've got the right attitude and the right mindset to get there, and you're a hard worker.
For the kids who might not naturally be as strong-willed, because I think it is, as you said, an innate thing, but for girls or, you know, any athlete that's struggling with self-confidence, what's your advice to those athletes?
Well, I'm not saying it's not something that you can't learn as well, but I think if it's naturally there, it's easy to build on. But I think the other way that you gain it and you get better at it is through experience. You know, these little things, all the little challenges that how you have along the way, they make you stronger, they make you take the lesson out of every experience, and then that can grow your you know, your drive and determination, and like start to kind of get you on that path. I've said this to you many times, you know, everything happens to you for a reason.
The parents play a massive part in the sport. So what is it, do you think, about parents that is so important in an athlete's career?
Well, I really liked what Penny said. It really resonated with me, because I think it when you get to that level, it is more than just about you. It kind of really recognizes like it's such a team effort, and it's like not just your commitment, it's your whole family's commitment. So like parents 100% like integral role in that coach athlete parent relationship has to be so strong. And like if you get that right, you're such a great little team and like a force to be reckoned with. I always ask my parents these questions now, like as I reflect on, you know, now being a mom, and I look at Indy and I think like, oh gosh, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I say to my mom, like, how did you know? Like, why? Like, I look back at videos of myself when I was like 5 and 6, I think there's no talent there really. Like there's like some flexibility maybe, and there's just like this little deer fluffing around like with all these limbs going everywhere. Like, how did you know? And my mom's like, I didn't know. Like we had no idea if you were any good at this sport, but you absolutely loved it. And if we ever told you you couldn't go because we couldn't drive you or whatever, oh, you were sick or something, you would just burst out into tears. Like, so all we could like hold on to was the fact that like you were so driven and, you know, so passionate about it. And we could see how much it meant to you to take it away from you. So we're like, well, at least we know she's really serious about it and it's worth the commitment. Like it is the whole village of people that surrounded you that helped you get there. And, you know, for me, I have like a similar memory like Penny had of, you know, I didn't want to see my parents. Like I thought it was interesting how she said like, where's my parents? I want to see them. I was the opposite. I was like, oh God, please don't see my parents, because I feel like that would just really set me off. And then the first thing I saw was my parents smack bang in the middle of the audience, right where I went to start my routine. And I was like, okay, all right, like everyone's here. I could see how nervous they were, and I was just like, I need to block it out and, you know, get going.
Yeah. So you have coached one of two Commonwealth Games champions, Nazmi,
Yep.
at the Delhi Commonwealth Games. So that must have been so incredible being a Commonwealth Games athlete yourself and then being there as a coach for the first time.
Yeah.
What did you find a more difficult experience?
Well, I was very young in my Commonwealth Games experience. Like I was only, I think, 14, turning 15. I was pretty young and it was a pretty big occasion. And I wasn't, the one of the top individual athletes. I was kind of there in the team kind of commitment, like helping the team to achieve that goal. I think coaching NAS, like, for me as a coach, like, one of my highlights. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like we went in there with, the goal. Like when Nazmi said she wanted to move back to Sydney and she wanted to train with me, I was really nervous to coach her. Like I was pretty, like, not young, but in my time as a coach, I would say I was pretty young. Like I was working with yourself and JL, and you guys were just juniors, and I'd been growing as a coach with you. So when somebody of Nazmi's caliber, she'd just come off the back of Beijing Olympics and she wanted to train with me, I was like, I don't think I can train you. Like, I don't think I'm ready for that. And it took a little bit of, work and talking that was like, okay, if we're going to do this, we've got to do it 150%. Like, we're going to win a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. Otherwise, we're not going to do it. For you and for me, like, that's the goal. And I think we kind of knew that was a mutual goal that we set together. And then we just did everything we could to get there. She started, I think it was her first routine, and she had a drop in ribbon. And it just, like, I think for her, she was like, it's over. And I was like, it hasn't even started. There's just 3 routines to go. I'm like, take yourself out of the arena, pretend like that never happened, come back in, and we start again with 3 routines to go. So nothing's over till it's over. And then she came out with like 2 routines of her. I've never seen her do better in her entire life. Like when I watch those routines back, it's just like perfection. It was everything we trained for.
And so what was it about Naz that made her such a delight to coach? And I think her approach to training and to competitions was kind of very unique.
Well, yeah, Nazmi is probably one of the most relaxed people you'll meet. But I think that did her good in her approach to competition. She was always nervous. Like probably people didn't notice that about her. She held it together pretty well, but she still had a lot of nerves when she competed, but she's just such a professional. Like she, every single day that she trained, she was like there 100%, and doing her exercises, everything that she needed to do. Like you would glance over working with her, I might have been doing something else and like just be like, oh, she's just nailing everything. I'm like, can you stop sometimes? Like, please don't do that routine again. You've just done it 100 times and it looks pretty good. But she was just like, nah, got to do it again, got to do it again.
Do you think it's the experiences as an athlete or the experiences as a coach that has made you the coach you are today?
I think a bit of both. Like I always look back on my time as an athlete, and there's, a number of different coaches that I worked with, and I took, I think, the best bits of all of those people. Like, one of them was really methodical and, everything has to be done in a certain way and repetition. And I really liked that. And another coach I worked with was, more about the artistry and the creativity of routines. And I kind of liked, I took a little bit of that. And, the last sort of coaches that I worked with, which is around the time of the Olympics, were like Russian, European coaches, and totally different work ethic. Like my first day of training, I just nearly fell on the floor. Like I'd never worked at that intense level, but I loved it. Like that part of it for me, I was like, wow, like I took so much out of it. It's just like, it was physically difficult for me. But then once I mastered it, understood it, it like opened up this whole different way that I now, when I hear a piece of music, how I think about how I can choreograph to that piece of music, having that exposure.
During this COVID time, it's pretty upsetting and demoralizing for a lot of the athletes. Or what can you say to motivate the athletes who want to be achieving all these things but are experiencing a setback of their own?
I think it's really hard right now. Like no one's gonna say it's easy. I don't think anyone's loving quarantine or coronavirus and everything that's going on. But I think you just have to look at it as just like another setback. There's going to be heaps of setbacks that happen. You know, you might suffer a major injury and be out for like a really extended period of time when all your other, you know, training partners are training. And like, how do you deal with that? And how do you not just drop off and think it's all too hard and give up? So, and the way you don't do that is by having goals, you know, whatever those little goals are. I think coronavirus and everything that's happening is the same thing. You just have to set your goals, but they might change, you know, like what you wanted to achieve by this stage now might have to be different. And, you know, it might just be looking at it in a different way, setting yourself smaller goals and focusing on those things that you never get time to focus on. There's no competitions right now. So what is it that you need to work on? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you could be doing now to still be moving forward towards your goals? It might just be in a different way.
It sounds like you have always been quite a goal-setting person, whether it be an athlete, coach, businesswoman. How important was, I guess, things like books or motivational quotes? And do you have any of those that you that ring, I guess, true still today?
When I broke my arm, my mum was getting sick of me moping around the house about, oh, I've broken my arm and I can't do anything I wanted to do and everything's doom and gloom. So she's like, that's it. I'm dropping you off at the library and you're going to find some books on motivation or something to get you out of this rut. And until you come back with a couple of books, I won't pick you up. I was like, oh, okay. So I sat at the library and I just went through all these books, but I picked up this little book and I read the whole thing, I'm pretty sure in like one day. And I actually typed the whole book out. I'm pretty sure it's called The Winning Factor. Like the messages in it to me were just like, you know, so amazing that I needed to carry this around. That book, it just had these little stories, and they just, you know, of different examples of things that happen and like how you can process use them to like help you in your situation. So like I found that really, really helpful. And then the other thing I was thinking of was this little, I don't know, it's this like funny little ornament thing that somebody gave me, and it had this little like almost poem that went with it. And I'll try to remember. It was something like, if you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. Something like I don't know, anyway, something along those lines. And like life struggles don't always go the way you think. Sooner or later, those who win are those who think they can, you know. It was just something along those lines of like, if you always think you're not going to achieve it, you're not going to achieve it, you know. So like, you've just got to start to believe that you can do everything and you're going to win and you can do this, and looking at everything in a positive way.
You're a mother of 2 young children. They wanted to follow in your Olympic footsteps. What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I've thought about this a few times lately. I don't know why, because Indy's not really doing anything that's going to seem like she's going to transfer into an Olympic sport at this point in time. But yeah, like obviously, you know, I'm always going to support whatever they want to do. I mean, God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do what my parents did. But yeah, I just think if, you know, they're passionate about it, then my message to them would be like, it's hard work. You know, and if you're prepared to put in the hard work and you're prepared to be patient, I think that's really important, you know, to be patient. Like, you're not just going to be really good at something overnight. If you really like it, then it's going to take a long time to be really good at it, and you've got to commit to it. But as long as you're patient and you're committed and you're driven, you'll get there. You know, anything's possible.
I think it's so interesting what you said, that we have young people especially have so much stimulus, as this to choose from, this to choose from, so many activities. What's the difference between being patient and wasting your time? Like, I think there's a fine line, you know, like what if you're an athlete and you just like turn up every single day, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, but I was patient.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. I don't know, like, I suppose like you still have to be you know, to make that decision, you'd have to be making sure you're setting yourself goals and you're actually achieving those goals, I suppose. I have all these gym books. I found them actually yesterday when I was trying to find some photos of my like Olympic experience. And I've just got goals after goals. Like there's just pages of things. And then like I can see that I've crossed out what I've achieved. And, and then I think that's how you would decide whether, to like you're wasting your time if you're not actually ticking off any of the things that you wanted to achieve over just, I'm ticking them off, but it's taking time. I think, I always think like success is a journey, like it's not a destination. And it sounds so cliche because it's been like so overused, but it's so true. It is like it's a journey and it never stops. When you achieve something, it makes you want to achieve more. So, you just want to keep going once you like tick that off. So I think, to be successful is not just getting one thing that you wanted or, it's like, okay, it's a journey and all the things that you learn and all the lessons you learn along the way is what keeps you going and keeps you motivated.